Welcome to the Financial Flossing Podcast with Ross Brannon, guiding dental professionals to a brighter future. Ross Brannon is a financial advisor who knows it's not just about your teeth. He helps dental practice owners protect and maximize today's cash flow to plan for tomorrow's cash needs. Find him at rossbrannon.com. On the show, he brings together experts to help dental professionals looking to make smart money decisions to grow their income, turn their retirement goals into reality, and improve their lives. And now, here's your host, Ross Brannon.
Welcome to the show. My guest today is Patrick Campbell. Patrick is actively practicing, and he's an active duty dentist for the U.S. Navy. He's been doing that for 3 years. This is a first on Financial Flossing, having an active duty dentist on here. This is a unique story, a lot different than most people's. Patrick, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored.
Sure thing. Well, let's talk a little bit about this. What made you decide to go into the Navy and start practicing dentistry here? I mean, I've met lots of people who spent time in the military as a dentist. That was typically years ago for them. You're the first guy I've interviewed who is actually in the military now. Was this really kind of a patriotism for the country? Was this, I love the military, I always wanted to join the military? Was there another reason? Talk about that for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, being young and in undergrad, looking for options about different career paths and paying for school, you start looking at it as a way to pay for school at first. Junior year of undergrad, started looking at the options, but then thankfully I was able to get this into this program. But now that I'm actually practicing, it's pretty unbelievable serving the patients that I do, serving Marines, and there's these young kids that have a lot of responsibility. So it's really an honor to serve them as a dentist. And, of course, again, it helps out with financially as well with tuition reimbursement and all the perks that go along with it.
So talk about that. The Navy paid for your dental school, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So there's a couple of options. The program that I did is called HPSB, so Health Professions Scholarship Program. So it's a year-for-year payback. They pay for school, and then for that each year of paid school, you owe them a year of service. Okay.
But now, for anyone who might be concerned, this doesn't mean you're being deployed to the front lines of a war-torn country and picking up a rifle. You're literally just doing dentistry, right?
Doing dentistry, but the big thing is it's not a typical job at all. There are dentists on every single Navy carrier. There's dentists currently, or probably not right now, but Army dentists are often in Iraq and Afghanistan when that situation was still going on. There's a dentist, who knows, in Norway right now with the Marines. Not the typical, working atmosphere, but there are dentists out there that are doing some pretty cool things with the military.
I would imagine being active duty dentist in the military stationed in Iraq or Afghanistan would definitely be a little bit different work environment than your typical solo practice in any town, USA.
It would, absolutely. Recently, actually, I wasn't in Iraq or Afghanistan, but I did a little 6-week tasker, is what they like to say it, with Operation Allies Welcome in Quantico, Virginia. So I was providing dental care to Afghan refugees for about 6 weeks, and we were working, in a mobile dental unit. So definitely a little different than the practice kind of just down the block kind of thing.
Well, this is a little bit off topic, but it begs my curiosity. So people living in Afghanistan, did they have a lot of teeth problems, or were their teeth pretty good?
Yes. They do not have the same dental care as we do here in the States. And there was a lot of dental care to be had for sure. So we did a lot of work, a lot of extractions and a lot of interesting things that we saw over the 6-week period.
Oh, wow. So you said, hey, I can basically make a deal with the government. They'll pay for my school, and then I will serve them for 5 years. But they pay you a pretty fair wage too. And they also give you a housing stipend. So you're able to live, even though you're not making as much as probably a dentist who has their own practice or as an associate at a practice somewhere else. You're doing all right. You're not struggling to get by, correct?
Yeah, they take care of us. I would say we're comfortable for sure. You are paid you can go and look up the salaries so right now I'm a lieutenant in the Navy. So I'm an O3. So you can go look up the a salary for that. And then you get a little extra stipend for being a dentist, and you get BAH as well. So basic housing allowance, which changes based on your location as well. So if you were up in Washington, D.C., you'd be paid a little bit more for cost of living up there versus, in the middle of Kansas kind of thing.
Did you have to go through boot camp?
So not technically boot camp. And I'm not even going to compare it to boot camp because that would be disrespectful for the people that go to boot camp. It's called Officer Development School. So ODS, it's in Newport, Rhode Island. So that's 5 weeks. And, when you're in dental school, the Navy leaves you alone. They know that there's a lot going on with your school, and they really let you focus on being the best dentist as possible. But after, you have to learn proper military etiquette. You have to learn how to wear your uniforms, saluting, everything that goes into being not only a dentist, but an officer of the United States Navy. You learn at this Officer Development School in Newport, Rhode Island for 5 weeks.
You came out as an officer because you had a college degree, is that right?
Correct. Yes. So you automatically dentist right as you come out of school, you were promoted to a lieutenant in 03.
Okay. So for you, one of your motivating factors for this, as it sounds like, was school loans, finding a way to pay for and manage school loans. So what was the tuition on your dental school?
I would have been, if I did not take this scholarship, I would have been about $300,000 in dental school debt.
And student loans are really a passion of yours. And I guess the dental industry is a little bit different than, physicians, in that many hospitals are nonprofits. So many physicians who work at hospitals qualify for the PSLF Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. There are some challenges with that program, which are not a topic for today. But talk a little bit about kind of your passion or hatred for student loans, whatever you want to call it.
Right, absolutely. So I do still have some undergrad student loans, but throughout the entire process, I didn't find out I was in this Navy program until November of my first year. So I took out student loans expecting that I would have to pay back. And I just remember looking back at that time, and I had no idea what I was even diving into. Did no calculations on what I would potentially have to owe. It's just kind of, there's so much stuff that goes into getting into dental school that you don't think about the more practical stuff, like how I'm going to pay for it, and, what my budget has to be. And I think it's getting better that people have, undergrad students, high school students have this idea that they're going to get out of dental school and be able to buy that Mercedes. I think it's getting better, but at the same time, still can always improve on kind of that mindset.
Well, it's interesting because it's obviously a topic for another conversation, but the rising cost of education, college tuition is insane, which I have lots of opinions on that. And, not everyone should go to college, and that doesn't make you a second class citizen by any stretch of the imagination. But you began to realize this so much. You did something a lot of people don't do, is you started working while you're in dental school. Talk about that. Yes.
And that was a great experience. So another thing I didn't mention. So while you're in dental school, the Navy pays you a little bit of a stipend too, housing allowance.
Oh, nice.
And I'm sorry, I completely forgot to mention that. So you do get a slight salary from the Navy during dental school. But I also saw an opportunity. I've bartended a lot in the past, but I was able to bartend on the weekends, and I thought it was a great experience. There's obviously, if dental students are ever interested in trying to find the right job, and I have some suggestions on that and some insight, but it was a great experience working and bartending during dental school. Obviously, it required some time management, but it was great.
So your goal, you have about 3.5 years left of your commitment to the Navy. And your hope and goal is to start your own practice. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes. There's, a lot of opportunities in the Navy that you could follow. Those are still open at this point, which is a huge advantage of the Navy as well. Opportunities are endless, but it's always been a thought of mine that I want to own a practice at some point. Yes.
Yeah, obviously you make a 20-year career in the military, you get a pension, which a lot of people get, and you've got the best healthcare on the planet, those are definite benefits. And as a small business owner, which if you own a practice, the bane of your existence is going to be health insurance. but that's just the world we live in. So talk about the peace of mind about being able to do that, start your own practice without having student loans. I mean, obviously not everyone has student loans. Some people, they have the means and they pay for it and other things, their parents pay for it. But talk about the peace of mind of having your loans paid for when you go to rent a building or buy a practice where you're incurring debt.
Right. Absolutely. It's just my wife and I at this point, but, maybe at some point we'll have a family, but, all these decisions that I'm making obviously not only impact me, but it impact my family, and having that a lesser burden for student debt while we're taking on more burden for paying employees and a practice loan and all that stuff. It's huge. It's a huge stress relief. And definitely, I feel at one point that I'm going to be very happy. I'm happy right now with my decision to go be in the Navy. But, in 5-6 years, when I start looking at that, it's going to be great that I don't have that burden of student loan debt.
Do you find of your former classmates that their student loan burden has affected their financial decisions on what direction they've taken their career?
I would say it's hard to say. Obviously, with the pause on student loans at this point.
Kind of nice. It got extended again.
Past May?
Well, no, I'm saying it got extended to May is what I'm referring to.
Okay, got it.
Which, by the way, this is probably going to offend some people, but that's a little ridiculous in my opinion.
Who knows when are we going to actually start again or June 1st?
It's just a different way of loan forgiveness. That's all.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, generally, it seems like dental students get out of school and they have to find a job to start paying back these loans right away. So is a lot of that, are they going to Aspen Dental? Are they, taking a DSO job where they're really working hard and getting a good paycheck? I would argue that generally that probably does happen. It does influence people's decisions after school.
And since you've kind of gone down the rabbit hole of student loans, and it is a rabbit hole, and you would think something as simple as getting a loan would be simple, but anything the government does is made dramatically more complex than it should be. And student loans you could get a degree in student loans. It's quite ridiculous.
Right.
What have you learned about student loans and seen out there in the world?
Yeah. So during dental school, I was lucky enough to participate in the ADA's lobby day in Washington, D.C. And a lot of times we were lobbying for student loan reform. There was always this argument. So with unsubsidized loans, is it better to have a capped rate, unsubsidized loans versus capped? And it seems like everyone has an opinion. Like, is it okay that dental students are getting an unlimited amount of student loans, or is it better to cap those student loans? I don't know.
By cap, you mean not the rate, you mean the amount.
The amount, correct. Like, let's say
what's interesting, I would argue if you cap the amount of loans available, that might be able to keep tuition prices in check.
And I would argue that too. That makes sense, right? Are you going to fall into, and these are hypothetical questions I'm asking because I don't have the answer, but are you going to fall into the trap? Let's say that tuition does keep going up, or is it going to be dental students going to be only the people that pay for it? Are they going to go private loans where the rates are higher? It's a tough situation.
Well, it's like when you go down the PSLF, and obviously the PSLF is dominated by physicians, but obviously you can get government or nonprofit work in the dental world. It's just not as predominant as it is in the medical world.
Right.
But it's only certain types of loan payback programs. The income driven or the income based plan, and it's like figuring out these plans. And by the way, don't try and call customer service because you'll need to take a vacation day to do that at Sally Mae. It's just or Nelnet, Navient, the servicing companies. It's just it's insane what you deal with. And I know people who they qualify for the PSLF, but they're like, nope, they're just going to pay it off as fast as they can. And I know some people who are like, they're at sub 2% interest and they make really good money. And they're like, I'm just paying the minimum until forever. And I understand all sides of the argument. I know what direction I would go if I was in their shoes, but that's just different than from other people.
Right. Absolutely. And one interesting story from these lobby day experiences is that we were sitting down we were at a face-to-face meeting. It was me and a bunch of other dental students with a very prominent senator
What state?
Oh, actually Wisconsin. And we basically said our complaints, and he said, I hear you. At the same time, we need more blue collar workers, right? So I think it's understood that dentists get paid well, but maybe it's not completely seen how significant of an issue this is at this point.
Well, the challenge, of course, is like, if there's 100,000 people who take out student loans a year, how many of them are dentists? And maybe it's 2,000. Well, they don't have a big voice.
Right.
And that's just the politics of it.
Right.
So what would you say are the negatives of going the military route?
Yeah, that's a great question. At some point you get to decide where you want to go, but you are a service member. You are often told where you're going to go, where you're going to be stationed. The needs of the Navy come first, and that's super important to understand if you're going to do this program.
So you're from Wisconsin. You went
Correct.
to school. You went to undergrad and dental school in Wisconsin.
Correct.
You're currently in North Carolina now, stationed.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And last year you were in DC.
Correct.
And next year you can move again.
Yeah, it's typically 2-year orders. So every 2 years, the first year was a kind of weird training year, and then every 2 years you typically move. And again, it's needs of the Navy come first. So if they need a dentist on a certain carrier out of Norfolk or San Diego.
So what happens then? You're married, you live with your wife now, you see your wife every day when you come home from work. But if they say, hey, we're putting you on a carrier out in the Pacific, your wife's stationed in San Diego at the base in San Diego, wherever it is, and you're gone for 6 months on a carrier.
Correct. Yes. So that is very important to understand. There's a lot of dentists that are needed everywhere. And again, needs of the Navy come first. So as the way it should be when they're giving us such a good program.
That's good. I mean, it's good to know. That's a deal killer for a lot of people, but I understand. And so, but because of the benefits, I mean, you're able to, we talked a little bit about this before, you're able to save a nice chunk of money at this point to kind of give yourself some savings. And I like to say savings gives you options when the time comes when you're done, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. So the thrift savings plan is, I've never been in a different 401k or savings plan. So I think, it's a great savings vehicle at this point, a huge government savings vehicle. And yeah, they allow us to fully participate in that. And
but even after that, just putting money in your own personal savings account, just because of the income you're paid, plus the housing allowance and things they provide, you're able to just put additional savings away in your checking or savings account to prepare you for when you're done. Correct.
Yes. We some people buy a house when they're on active duty, even though they move every 2 years. But that's might be an advantage right now. We can rent and hopefully save up for that down payment in a couple of years when we settle down wherever, or 10 years when we settle down wherever. Definitely gives the opportunity where we can grow that fund for emergencies and a down payment and maybe a practice loan payment. A lot of options there for sure.
So let's kind of change gears a little bit here. You're pretty well versed and well read in the dental industry. You know a lot about DSOs. You've done a lot of homework. We talked about that beforehand. So let's fast forward 3 years. You start your own practice wherever you started. What is your ideal scenario? You'll be in your early 30s at that point in time. Are you kind of like, I want to grow this thing as fast as I can up to whatever number and sell it to a DSO? Or you're like, no, I'm going to practice forever? I mean, I have some clients who hate corporate dentistry, hate DSOs, that would never sell to a DSO. Some people would love to sell to a DSO. Some people never want to sell. They want to work until they're well on in their years and pass it on to an associate. What's your, it's a little idealistic right now, your phase of your life, but what's your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked a little bit, before we came on about the FIRE movement and some of the pros and cons with that. What I think we both agreed on was that the amount of saving for that, or the savings rate that often comes along with the FIRE program or FIRE philosophy, is great. Looking ahead, I mean, I would love to be a staple in the community, someone that the community can lean on. And I think a lot of dentists kind of want the same kind of thing, a great resource in the community for people to turn to. At the same time, of course, want some sort of stability where you can only work you might only be able to work 3 or 4 days a week. And basically stability, I think, is the best thing to go for, while at the same time being a great resource in your community and someone that your community can rely on.
That's great. And to me, that sounds like, hey, I'm not trying to sell out right away.
Correct.
In the future. But, obviously life changes. You never know what comes your way. And so, but just having the flexibility to choose whatever you want to do.
Absolutely.
So this is, as we kind of wind this down, this has been a very unique conversation because of where you're at in your career. We've never talked to someone like this at your stage of your career. And of course, like anybody, if you talk to me 5 years from now, I'll probably say, I can't believe what I said about 5 years ago. And your perspective may change as well when you go into private practice dentistry. But what would you're only a couple of years removed from dental school. What advice would you give a new college undergrad graduate who's entering dental school? What advice would you give them?
And this is pretty topical. So my younger brother is about to graduate from undergrad, and he is thinking about going to med school. So not necessarily dental school.
By the way, tell him to stop. Tell him to go to dental school.
Yeah.
He'll make more money as a dentist than he will as a phheysician. And
fair enough. I will talk to him about that.
For anyone listening, just so you know, one of my clients, he's an orthodontist, and he wanted to go to med school, and he was kind of just shadowing a physician, and the doctor looked at him and said, "Go to dental school, don't go to medical school." Mm-hmm. And I've got physician clients, and I have I just went to the dentist yesterday and just got my annual cleaning, and my dentist raised their rates back in October, which is fine. But so it used to be almost all covered by insurance. Now there's less covered by insurance, so I gotta pay. And I was talking to an emergency room physician client yesterday, and he says, I haven't gotten a raise in 10 years. And I had another physician client say to me, medicine is the career of diminishing returns because Medicare reimbursements always go down, right, and the insurance companies always follow Medicare. So purely from an economical standpoint, dentistry is a much better way to go than medicine. And I could talk about that for quite a long time. So I would encourage your brother to say, hey, now if he's passionate about medicine and not dentistry, I get it. But you're just going to be the rich one in the family. He's not.
It's funny. So my mom is actually an endodontist as well, and uncles, aunts, and a lot of dentists in the family. And he's the one that's going medicine. So right now he's going to take a gap year, and we'll see how it goes. But I guess advice for him, for medical as well, I would almost push him towards military medicine as well. There's a lot of options. The HPSV, the scholarship program I'm in, is also. Yeah,
because I wouldn't want to go down that PSLF route. Waiting 10 years and government politics about that. That's probably what you're recommending is probably a better way to go.
Yeah, and there's actually the military has a medical school in Bethesda, Maryland, kind of associated with Walter Reed. So that's a option as well. So.
All right. So I'm a big reader. I ask everyone what's a book they like or recommend. Do you read? Do you have any book recommendations?
Yeah, I have a couple. So can I do 3?
Go for it. Yeah.
Different subjects. Okay. So I think copywriting is fascinating.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely fascinating topic, and something that I think dentists don't realize that they're doing, or just in general, how important it is. Just writing written word to be as effective as possible. So Joseph Sugarman, years and years ago, he put out this Adweek copywriting guide, and it's just a fascinating book. It gives you pretty actionable tips and tricks to improve your writing. So that's one. Psychology of Money.
Oh, that's Morgan Howell's. That book's fantastic.
Yes, fantastic book. I'm reading it for the second time right now. Fantastic book, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners have read that already. And then I'll go with a home answer. From being from Wisconsin, there's a new book about Giannis Antetokounmpo, the basketball player.
You can pronounce his name. You're ahead of everyone.
Yeah, exactly. It's, aside from his story being really cool, just where he's coming from and how lucky that us as dentists are is pretty humbling to read about. So I'll say that as well.
Well, that's great. Well, Patrick, this has been an absolutely entertaining conversation. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on. It's an honor.
Sure thing. All right, guys, you've been listening to the Financial Flossing Podcast with Ross Brannon. Tune in next week for our next episode.
This has been another episode of Financial Flossing with Ross Brannon, guiding dental professionals to a brighter future. If you liked what you heard, consider subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts. For more on Ross Brannon, visit rossbrannon.com.
Registered representative and financial advisor of Park Avenue Securities, LLC, PAS, OSJ, 3664 Coolidge Court, Tallahassee, Florida, 32311, 850-562-9075. Securities products and advisory services offered through PAS, member FINRA SIPC. Financial representative of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, Guardian, New York, New York. PAS is a wholly owned subsidiary of Guardian. North Florida Financial is not an affiliate or subsidiary of PAS or Guardian. California Insurance License Number 0L10073. Arkansas Insurance License Number 161-39032. 2021 119535. Expires 423. That last part can also say 2021 119535. Expiration April 2023.
This podcast is for informational purposes only. Guest speakers and their firms are not affiliated with or endorsed by PAS, Guardian, or North Florida Financial, and opinions stated are their own. Ross is a registered representative and financial advisor of Park Avenue Securities, LLC, PAS, OSJ, 3664 Coolidge Court, Tallahassee, Florida, 32311, 850-562-9075. Securities products and advisory services are offered through PAS, member FINRA SIPC. Financial representative of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, Guardian, New York, New York. PAS is a wholly owned subsidiary of Guardian. North Florida Financial is not an affiliate or subsidiary of PAS or Guardian. Arkansas Insurance License Number 1613932. California Insurance License Number 0L10073. 2022 135909. Expiration 324.